Good evening. I'd like to call this joint meeting to order. This is a joint meeting between the Winthrop Planning Board and the Winthrop Town Council. It is June 10th, 2025. We are in the Robert DeLeo Senior Center. Welcome to all. I would ask for a roll call, please.
Council Aiello.
Here.
Council DeMarco.
Here.
Council Costigan. Council Tassinari.
Here.
Council Swope. Here. Council DeRoss.
Here.
Vice President Belcher.
Here.
President Lettieri.
Here.
The Planning Board. Chris Boyce.
Chris Boyce is here via cell phone.
There you go. Sarah Jane Cornish.
Here.
Alyssa Gamble.
Here.
Jason Palutro.
Here.
Anna Merceret. Here. Thank you.
All right. Please stand for the pledge. Read by Councilor Swope. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to have a public comment. Just, I would assume most of the public comment will revolve around the planning board, but the public hearing is also the opportunity for the public. We are required, the planning board as well as the council is required to have a public hearing during this process, so this is fulfilling that obligations. But I will open it up for public comment if anybody has a different item they'd like to make a comment on. Okay, thank you. So new business, we do have a joint meeting with the planning board. I thank them tremendously. I know traffic as it is such. Chris is having a hard time getting here, but I thank him for being on the cell phone. Again, the planning board has done yeoman's work not once but twice, so I thank them. I know there's a tremendous amount going on, and they have a lot on their plate, so I do thank them for doing that in a timely fashion. So we will open the public hearing. I will ask Town Manager Marino, I believe, has a slide that we're going to go over with Chris's help, and any input from the planning board. We will open it up for questions or concerns from the residents, both pro and against. Tony?
Thank you, Council President. Chris Boyce would have been here, but like he said, he's fighting traffic to get here, so I offered to run through it. And thank you to Alyssa Gambale for putting the slide together for us. They put it together for the planning board. We didn't feel like, this is essentially the same plan as before, but we just want to go over some of the highlights. So as everybody knows, the courts ruled that the guidelines weren't legal, so they had to make regulations. So the state then went through the process and promulgated new regulations with a public comment period, et cetera, and essentially, other than a few minor changes that didn't impact us, put out the same regulations that mirrored the guidelines. So we called RKG, who was our consultant on this, asked if our old plan worked under the new regulations, the old guidelines. It does. So just a quick highlight for what was already presented a bunch of times before. The 3A MBTA communities law requires all communities with access to the T, rail, and bus to add zoning to allow for increased density beyond single-family dwellings. Winthrop already meets these density requirements in many areas and has multifamily buildings, but is not zoned for what exists today. Winthrop, we are in interim compliance until July 14th, so the council will try to vote before then, one way or another. 3A in Winthrop requires adding an overlay district to allow for the 882 units. We did get 221 offset units for the CBD district. Didn't change any of the zoning down there, but because of the work we already did, we get to back 221 off of the 882, which brings us down to zoning for 661. The planning board's proposal that they brought forth back last year, which will hopefully be brought forward again, consists of 2 overlay districts that are not currently zoned for the existing density. No new units can be built under this proposal. Units that already exist, these units already exist at Seal Harbor and Governor's Park. So Seal Harbor, the only way you could do that is if you completely tore down the condos at Seal Harbor and Governor's Park and then rebuilt. But I'll stress, as we stated before, the zoning that the overlay districts would actually give you less units than what's currently there. Seal Harbor Road parcels, 394 existing units, with the, if goes through, that the 3A zoning would only be zoned for 333 units, and Governor's Park, again, 393 existing units, would be zoned for 336. Why should Winthrop comply with 3A? This proposal complies with the law without allowing for any new units. Non-compliance can lead and will lead to a loss of grant funding, especially for infrastructure, as well as forced compliance by the state. Because if we don't pass it and it's a no vote from the council or the community, we assume, similar to Milton and other towns, that or Milton anyway, the state would not look to sue Winthrop to force compliance. But that's sort of where we stand right now. The plan is for the planning board, once this meeting's over, check the box with the public hearing. The planning board will then vote their recommendation of the council, and then the council will have their meeting to vote on the plan that the planning board recommends. That's where we're at.
Thank you. And if the planning board has anything they'd like to add to that presentation, feel free to speak up. If not, we could have some questions, and if you have any input then, if that's fine. Okay. We will now open, the public hearing has been opened. Are there any comments, any proponents of the planning board's proposed recommendation in the 3A process? The proponents are more than welcome to speak now. Just please state your name and precinct.
Cassie Whithouse, Precinct 6. This discussion has gone in circles for far too long, with some of the council members refusing to acknowledge facts and the consequences for their actions. You are all elected to lead and make decisions for our community that are fiscally responsible. Members of this community just came together and made extensive efforts to pass an override for our schools and a bond to fund the new fire station. There's a belief around town that the council manufactures crises to then ask the taxpayers to bail the community out. The 3A fight feels like another example of this theory. Let's lay out the facts so that they are clear for people who are new to this conversation. The Milton lawsuit resulted in a review of the rules and an affirmation that the AG can enforce the MBTA zoning law to the fullest extent. The Superior Court also just denied motions for a preliminary injunction from residents of Hamilton, as well as the towns of Duxbury, Hanson, Holden, Marshfield, Middleton, Wenham, Weston, and Wrentham. Importantly, the decision states that although the Hamilton lawsuit was filed by residents, it was treated as though it was brought by the town and not simply dismissed on issues of standing, but rather on the lack of merit in their argument. All arguments raised were dismissed, including arguments related to unfunded mandates, uniqueness of circumstances, and the state superseding local authority. In addition to these lawsuits, there is the matter of the council's legal obligation per the town charter to approve all zoning changes pertaining to Chapter 40R, of which 3A is a part. The zoning update presented last fall just recognizes existing housing in our community. We've already done the work and we simply need our zoning to recognize it. Our community could benefit from the grant programs that Winthrop will now be ineligible for if leadership continues to disregard compliance requirements. We now have an assistant town manager to do those grant applications. We could be asking for funds to provide bus shelters and repairs to our leaking water service systems to support our existing housing in our already dense community. How can leadership possibly justify fighting the state on 3A with all legal grounds already turned down instead of partnering with them in celebration of the density we already have? This is an election year. Odd-numbered precincts are on the ballot, as well as council president. If you do not vote yes for a reasonable compliance plan, you are directly responsible for the lawsuit and forced zoning compliance that will be generated by the Attorney General's enforcement. If you're concerned about impact, you should see the plan created by community members who are educated in this field and have received input from the community is the best plan possible. Their efforts working with the consultant last year created a plan that protects the community from public concerns by complying with 3A via our existing housing. If you say no to this plan, the direct consequence is handing over control of this required update to the state. The outcome will likely be a plan that actually allows more housing to be built. While I personally won't be upset about that, I know many people in this room will be upset by the idea of more housing allowed in Winthrop. You will be responsible for that additional housing. So if you want to say no, just so that you can stay the state tied your hands, by all means do it, but that would be a cop-out and an abdication of your authority to the state in a way that you have directly claimed to stand against. Thank you.
Thank you.
Celeste Barrow Hewitt, Precinct 1. I'm not going to be as eloquent as Cassie. I really just wanted to come here to say, at this point, where we are with this plan that we have in place, it's just semantics. It's really just checking a box, submitting a plan to the state, the end. Tomorrow, we're on to the next thing. This has been 2 years of kicking this around. I think the first pass, done with the consultants and the planning board, that went down a path that nobody wanted to support. Just way too much development and way too much to be proposed. At this point, it's nothing. It really is nothing. People who opposed it initially were concerned about potentially having affordable units coming into the town and endorsing that, and there are people that push back on that. I think that's a different conversation. I think that's part of the conversation we were having last week, and I won't address that right now, but I was very disappointed at some of our representatives and the position that they took and how they really pushed back on work that was done by residents of this town, because it can't be done. I'm looking at the town council here. You guys spent the last 2 years, and you're mostly focusing on this proposal. Just check the box, submit the plan, go on to the next thing. As a member of the Climate Commission, we're looking at tens of millions of dollars that we need in order to protect us from climate impacts and to address the infrastructure initiatives that we need to address. We have drainage problems. We have all kinds of issues. We need to make ourselves available to all of the resources that are available from the state. We cannot preclude ourselves from that. Now, the other side of the coin, if you guys accept the plan, you go to a vote, you're on to the next thing, and we don't have to build any more units. We don't really have to do anything else with zoning. If you don't submit a plan, we're open to a lawsuit. We don't have the resources. We just turned to our residents and our property owners and asked for a 2.5 override, and we accepted it. We asked for the debt exclusion. We accepted it. But we need to be finding ways to bring money into town. We cannot, push back on this and open ourselves up to a lawsuit. We don't have the money and the resources for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Yes, Tom.
Tom Dudarian, Precinct 3, also your tree warden. I've been working as recently as this morning with our smart, diligent, and thoroughly competent assistant town manager pursuing grants for trees. This particular grant is called Cool Corridors, and it's designed to provide shade for young and old in places where the children and elderly may frequent, because many people suffer from heat, more so than cold. Excessive heat kills, and we're in a period of warming climate. I mean, I've said that money doesn't grow on trees. We all know that. But money grows trees. We've selected places. I've worked with the DPW head, and we selected places to put these trees where they'll shade asphalt. And I'm going to work with the planning board and how this fits into the town's plan. So trees will do a lot to alleviate climate, and Cheryl tells me that we have many more pursuits of grants from the state. So we really don't want to anger the state. I'm on the Climate Commission. I'm the town manager's representative in the Climate Commission, and we are facing flooding at Morton Street, Pico, Tileston, Griddlestone. Now, okay, I'm getting cute now. Money doesn't flood into the town, but the town can, but money can keep floods out of town. So it would be a shame to lose support from the state because we are stubborn about a principle that really is not going to amount to much when these other things are real threats to the town.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Norman Hyatt, Precinct 6, and I'm co-chair of the Citizens Advisory Commission on Climate. We've been in existence almost a year now, and we've done an awful lot of work in finding out what this town needs and what we can do about it. It takes money. What we want to start doing is permitting. We can't even permit at this point until we get some grants to be able to afford the permitting. We want to be ready so that when federal money does open up, hopefully one day, we'll be ready for it. We need 3A desperately. We cannot exist without it. We haven't had a hurricane in 31 years. And God help this town if we get one that's a Category 3, 4, or 5 hurricane. The flooding will be just immense. So it's not even a question of if you should. You need to do this. It's imperative.
Anna Larry, Precinct 1. Like Norm, I also co-chair the Citizens Advisory Commission on Climate in Winthrop. The Climate Commission, as everyone has noted, just coming up before me, is also Climate Commission members. We've been active since August of last year, and it's been our pleasure to hear from community members and to get their insights into what we've been creating, which is our Climate Action Plan. This public comment is my own and is not representative of the whole commission. Our group is for the trees. It also has deep roots in conservation, holds public safety dear, and is laser focused on creating an actionable resiliency plan in Winthrop. We have spent the past year developing this plan with input, like I mentioned, from the community, from town management, DPW, and scientific experts. Our goal is to create a strategy to future-proof our seaside town that is also already facing catastrophic flooding. On May 13th, in this same room, we actually sat with 50 other community members for our Coastal Resilience and Relocation Workshop, partnering with organizations that I've worked with before on successful environmental grants for the town of Winthrop, and they were present. Some of those were the Nature Conservancy, Mystic River Watershed Association, Communities Responding to Extreme Weather, CREW, and the North Suffolk Office of Resiliency and Sustainability, and notably WBUR, which was a surprise. We have an opportunity to harness resources like we never have before and partner with these organizations on grants now. The big question that I keep getting as the co-chair of this commission is, will Winthrop still be eligible for state grants? And I don't know the answer to that. Winthrop in 2025 submitted 2 MVP grants, totaling $1.3 million roughly, currently under at risk. These are grants that I worked on. They're 2 most impacted neighborhoods in Winthrop, which we call hotspots. And the commission estimates the total cost to fund all projects in all of the hotspots that are now facing flooding and other climate-related issues to be in the ballpark of $50 to $80 million. That would double our town's budget. The town of Winthrop submitted a proposal in February that I do support, and it would exempt us from 3A. And I don't support really any additional funding in flood zones, to be clear. We are a compact coastal community, and the planning board has proposed a plan that respects our geographic and environmental constraints and adds no additional units under this compliance approach. So I hope the council considers a yes to the planning board's proposal and realizes that this plan is in the best interest for Winthrop. Significant funding is at risk now more than ever. Thank you.
Leonora Foley, Precinct 2. There has been talk, I can't really say any better than the previous speakers, about the talk about potential lawsuit against the town from the state, but I hope we don't overlook the fact that whatever councilors vote against this plan will be responsible for the loss of funding for our climate mitigation plans and programs. And there's a very real possibility that individuals affected by that could sue the individual councilors who voted against it. So I say you. Are you done? Yep. Oh, good. Okay. Another thing I would like to challenge are the claims that Winthrop has done without state grants before, and we can continue to go without. I think we are framing this issue incorrectly. We should be asking why we have not received grants before and what can we do to change this. What funds have we left on the table at the expense of our town? Problems that could have been mitigated but weren't. Luckily, we now have an assistant town manager who is digging into this work. Having said that, I don't think it's a good look to be boasting about going it alone and not getting state funding when homes will be flooded, our schools are at risk of being shut down, and our firefighters are struggling in subpar conditions. That's all.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Brendan Cooney, Precinct 5, 35 Pico Ave specifically. I just wanted you guys all to remember the promise you made to me and the other neighborhoods that we've been discussing for years, that you will see this process through. You will help us fix our neighborhoods. Tonight is a step in that direction, and I really ask that we move forward and think about what is at risk. My house, my neighborhood is at risk. It is going to flood. So my neighbors have seen it. I wish they came here with me to tell you how bad it has been. I just implore you to think this through. The argument that I've heard about we have not had state grants in the past, and the amounts that I've heard that have been kind of just shoved aside as not important, everybody has said that their neighborhoods have not been touched in 40 years. No grants have been even applied to for Pico Ave before the past few years. So that argument to me is moot. Absolutely moot. Let's move forward together. Let's fix the neighborhoods. We're all aware of how much it costs. So that's all I need to say. Thanks.
Hi, Gianna Cavallo, Precinct 2.
This is all proponents right now of the plan.
Right.
Okay? Okay.
So just out of a very, hearing a lot about the environmental impacts that everyone's worried about regarding grants. Number one, has there been a study in regard to the impact of construction and the additional folks and residents that would be in the town, and what environmental impact that would have? Secondly, as this gentleman said, that the neighborhoods haven't been touched in 40 years, just out of curiosity, has there been more studies that need to be done? And I'll be very frank, I've lived in Winthrop my whole life. We've always come together to get things done. What are we doing in place besides 3A? Let's put 3A aside. Let's say it's null and void. What are we doing to fix the flooding and those type of things? So maybe we can avoid being a part of 3A and have some reassurance that we don't have to participate in that.
Thank you. Marcy.
I'm Marcy Hamilton, Precinct 2. I would like to thank the Planning Board for their presentation. I would like to thank the Town Manager for his hard work and this board for their commitment to the town. That being said, I would like to share my personal opinion on 3A law. We have fought the fight in the courts, and before us is a plan that adds not 0, but less units to the town. I understand both sides. I understand we are 1.6 miles, but as I've said before at many meetings, the state owns us. DCR owns our beaches, tells us where we can swim and sun. DEP owns Ural Beach and is now building a berm of 5 feet with grass to protect homes. MWRA, although they built a pier, continues to drive toxic trucks through our streets. Massport pollutes our lungs, damages our ears, and God forbid if there is ever a crash of an airline, we are sheltering in place. That to me is scary. I get it, but I also know this town needs the state funds to survive. They gave 80% for our schools, even though now our schools are going to be a bit smaller. Excuse me one second. They help our infrastructure with the capital plans throughout our town. The money they provide comes from federal money that trickles down to state money that goes to cities and towns. Personally, as a licensed daycare provider, I am obligated to uphold the laws of the state and the EC that they set forth. That's the law. I would like to put this issue behind us. This board is committed and will be committed to repairing the drainage and pipe work and all the hot spots that they've known about since 2017 when the report came forward. I understand Morton Street is a big issue, but it needs to be addressed. We will need state funding for these things. Currently, at a FEMA meeting, FEMA doesn't exist anymore, or very slow and trickling maybe some money towards us within this administration. This town and those neighborhoods will be compromised, and I support this plan and hope that the opposition in town and on this board understand why I am doing so and respect my decision without malice or intimidation. Thank you.
Karina Campobasso, Precinct 3. I just want to say thank you so much to the Planning Board for creating a plan that is not going to add any more units to our town, and you've done a fantastic job, and I don't understand the vitriol of the people who are saying no to the plan. It's like they won't take yes for an answer. We have a plan that is not going to add additional burdens to our town, so why don't we, as everyone's been saying, let's just move on, vote in favor, and move on to our next issue. Thank you.
Any other proponents that would like to speak? All right, any opponents? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Council President and the Planning Board. My name is John Vitaliano. I live in Precinct 5. Was born in Winthrop. Lived there for most of my life, except for 12 years when I lived in East Boston, working on issues that directly involve Winthrop as well as East Boston. I'm strongly opposed to 3A for a lot of issues, some of which would be purely philosophical. At least one of it, and just to let you know, I'm also, by the way, a very strong supporter of public transportation. I spent many years in the past working with my good friend Joe Aiello continue on public transportation issues, not only in the town of Winthrop, but around the state and the region that directly impact and affect the town of Winthrop. It's been a long 50 years, glad to have done it. I've also been very strongly involved in affordable housing, which I strongly support. Been working, for example, with the East Boston Community Development Corporation for a long time, helping them provide nearly 1,000 units of affordable housing throughout the area, including, for example, the 27 units of housing when we converted the Dalrymple School up on the Highlands to affordable to elderly housing a few years ago, and we did that. And I was the project manager for that particular project. So one of the feelings that I have about the 3A controversy is what is 3A all about when before 3A even became a reality? If it is a reality, why is it needed? When this town had a very proud record, well before 3A, of contributing to the housing needs of the town as well as the state. As far as the threat that the state has made at times about withholding funds for any town that has the audacity to object legally to the law, some of us, including myself, have been spending 50 years fighting state laws, for example, like the Port Authority, that had laws and objectives on the books to severely impact in a very negative way the town of Winthrop. And some of us in the town got together, fought those objectives in those laws successfully, as it turns out. And lately, I don't remember the exact details, but the governor has had to backtrack on one of her objectives, on one of her initial decisions to withdraw public funds for public safety project in one of the local towns because of the outcry of that, and that is still in force. So the threat of the town, of the state, withdrawing its support for the town because of an attempt by the town to object to 3A in many ways is a paper threat, and I've had enough experience to be successful in that respect, and I would again urge the town to vote no on 3A. Thank you.
Howdy. I didn't know I'd be speaking tonight. Paul Caruccio, too. I do want to say before we start that I don't think we spent 2 years kicking around this plan. I think the vast majority of the community spent 2 years telling you exactly what they wanted, and it was not 3A. So I think anything else is a moot point, because we're here to represent the community. And what we see with the planning board, and I think it's great what they did, they planned not to build at all in their plan. And I don't know, that's great if it works, and what if it doesn't? We're talking about funding and getting money and getting grants. Well, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the state has a little bit of a budget crisis. And you know what? The state does really not play well with the federal government, and there's going to be no money coming down from the federal government for the state to give it to us. So you can forget about that. And I've never really seen anything that the government's decided to control or dictate that's really worked out very well. So I think we have a better grasp of what's good for this community than the state does. If we lose control of our zoning, that's one of the few things that we do control. And it's a vast overreach by the state to start with. So why we entertain this is beyond me, on the promise that maybe we'll get a few dollars in the future. Additionally, if we do have more units that have to be built, it has to be factored in the cost of the community. And over the past 2 years, I brought up, well, our schools are overcrowded. How much was it going to cost us to build new schools, to employ more teachers, and to educate each child? And the amount is vast. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I'm adamantly against it. I think the community over 2 years has told the board, and they've told, I mean, if you want to go sampling the community, that's what you'll find as well, and I don't think it's a secret. So I would encourage you to drop this, compliance with 3A, and Winthrop can control Winthrop. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Jack Dowd, Precinct 1. I don't think there's too much money lying around for multi-million-dollar projects. I'd like there to be a lot of money to help the people on Morton Street. As far as the layover proposed by the planning board, it was a good effort, but I don't see any crystal balls on your table over there, so we don't know, we really don't know what's going to happen with the state accepting or not accepting the proposed plan. Thank you for your efforts. As far as Morton Street is concerned, I've studied it, berms, walls, etc. And it was just mentioned by a candidate here, Celeste, that it would cost tens of millions of dollars to keep the water from flooding down that area. I was at a meeting, tens of millions. I was at a meeting last month with Councilor Aiello, and he mentioned a number of $75 million to fix the flooding problems in Winthrop. And most of it is at Morton Street. Well, I've read the Woods Hole, what they gave us for advising us for flooding in this town. And I didn't get the whole project because you couldn't pull it up, the whole project. But I got the gist of it. And Woods Hole said that the best proposal for Morton Street is either to jack the house up, and so you won't have flooding in your home or cellar, or demolish the houses. So for tens of millions of dollars proposed by the climate people, and the climate's not changing anytime soon. We used to have a mile-high glacier right where we're standing. And so the flooding's been going on for a long time. And so you have to take into account what the history is here in this area. And the $75 million that was mentioned by Mr. Aiello at his council monthly meeting or yearly meeting, you could buy every house on Morton Street for $20 million. That's it. Never mind tens of millions. Never mind 75 million. You could buy the whole street, and you could put the people someplace else with their $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000 that they could, valued house down there. Put them someplace else. put them about 10 feet above the water line. They'll be very happy. You know, the street's been flooding for centuries. The street's been flooding for centuries. Not tens of millions, 75 million. It's never going to be fixed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vasily Malios, Precinct 1. Like to thank the planning board. You guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing, so great job. Please don't take any negative comments or as personal. One thing I just want to clarify is that school funding is not going to be impacted here. That is a definite fear-mongering move that we've seen from other pro-3A groups outside of Winthrop, so the schools cannot be impacted. The only impact to the schools that can be had are our school population. If we continue to develop, your numbers are going to go up. You're already at capacity. Second thing, what amazes me is that we're okay having the state hold grants over our heads for something that we fight against here in Winthrop. And like one of the speakers said earlier, the state owns us. Why are we okay with that? That is just crazy to me. It's nuts. It makes 0 sense why we're not pushing back against this. At what point is the state going to stop? They're not going to stop. What's coming down next? You're going to start seeing fines for going over your miles. I mean, like, this is just getting out of control. We have to put a stop to it. We have to put our foot down. We are a small community. We are very close. We are 20,000 people. We have fought back against the MWRA. We have fought back against Massport. And I think we need to continue to fight back against 3A. Thank you.
Diana Viens, Precinct 2. I find it so interesting that the organized pro group here tonight, we didn't feel like it was necessary to bring our 1,000 folks staunchly against this, because we know the drill at this point. We've gone over it multiple times. Max, I know you haven't been here, but I'll share with you the videos if need be. In any case, anyone who has questions about our cases, look at the law or talk to a lawyer. Maybe don't make assumptions there. The threats against our town residents as a strategy is not going to work here in Winthrop ever. We do not deal with threats. It may work in other towns, but it will not work here at all. The fact that some people, including those who are running for office, are standing up here lying to everyone saying this will do nothing, refuse to put it over their homes, ironically. The fire station, the flooding, I feel bad for a couple of folks that have gotten up thinking that this is going to do anything about flooding or the things that they've mentioned. It makes me think that the playbook that's been played out in other towns that are behind the 8 ball, unlike us, who've fallen for that crap, it's not going to work here. We're far ahead of the curve there. In terms of the grants, we don't get any money from the 4 grants stated in the law. We've said that multiple times. We get $0 with respect to the 13 grants that 3A compliance is taken into consideration for, which are in the regulations, which are about to get tossed, by the way. Little teaser there. We get approximately, and we've done the math, $2.18 a person per year. So if you value your freedom, perhaps everyone will chalk up $2.18 per year to deal with that. In terms of 3A compliance in general, I'll just leave a couple thoughts in your mind. The law states that you need to have a district of reasonable size of multifamilies, and Winthrop is 65% multifamilies. Again, we've gone over this multiple times, and that is why we have 2 exemption cases, active exemption cases in Superior Court, as well as our challenge to the emergency and now permanent regulations also in Superior Court. In our unfunded mandated exemption, we've detected $1.2 million in direct costs associated with complying with 3A. That's a lot of money. It's not a bunch of money, but it's a lot of money, just to keep everyone informed. Also, Winthrop can't safely comply with 3A. For example, we had an earthquake, I want to say 3 months ago, and there's no 3-minute rule, there's a public hearing, where people were stuck on our roads for hours because next door in exempt East Boston, you probably understand this, Max, too, there was a broken down bus. We couldn't get out and we were stuck on the road, and maybe the first earthquake we've ever experienced in our lives here in Winthrop, because we have a lot of people and we have clogged roads. That's a dangerous situation.
Just wrap up, Diana.
Sure. I also, lastly, cannot wait to hear the planning board's rationale for violating the Zoning Act law, banning the two-year rule about substantially same plans. Thank you. I look forward to your report.
Thank you. Any other opponents wish to? Yes, Michael.
Good evening, Michael Herbert, Precinct 3, and I'm opposed to 3A. It's funny, I talk to everyone, I'm in town every day, I talk to the people, they're like, what's 3A? Half of them don't know, and the ones that do, don't want it. I hear all these people here that want it, but I hear a lot more people that don't want it. And, you know, we're doing building on our own. There's buildings going up Pauline Street, Veterans Road, all over town. We're taking care of it ourselves already. So why do we need people from outside telling us what to do? Tip O'Neill said, governments should take care of themselves. Towns should take care of themselves. So I think we're doing a good job building right now. 20,000 people in 1.6 square miles. That's pretty darn packed. We're a can of sardines here. You know, you're looking for grant money for flooding. We've got Deer Island, 43 communities of garbage going through our town, permeating toxic fumes through our community. What do we get, $1 million? We should be getting a lot of money from MWRA. Massport, 2 a.m. I woke up last night, 5 a.m. this morning. Go up on their rent. They're on our land. Tell them to move if they don't like it. They'll pay. Parking. Parking's an issue here. I have a garage on Nevada Street that I rent, and on the corner of Nevada Street and Shirley Street, the fire truck can't make that corner because there's a sign that says no parking. And there's a car there every single day and no parking spot. So there's a safety concern. Fire engines can't get through. Payson Street, right around the corner here, there's a 2-family converted to a 3-family. There's parking for 2 spots. They got a variance for 4. There's still only 2 spots today. So I have pictures of cars parked on the sidewalk. And I've got people going to the barn at the historical, and they have to walk on the street to get to the barn. This is safety issues here. It's too crowded. I oppose it. Let's govern ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Yes.
One more thing to say. Vasily Malios, Precinct 1. You cannot guarantee that not one unit will be built in the future with this law. This law states in the letters that other communities have received that if the guidelines were to change, you must comply. So if they change the district, they change the number of units per acre, we're going to have to comply. And I believe we had a previous counselor who had said, oh, let's just comply now. And then if they change it again, then we won't back off. Well, it's a lot harder to take it off the books once we comply. Just say no, make it easy, we move on.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Just 30 seconds.
Just to add on to what Vasily just mentioned, the CBD is being proposed by this group here. So that's fully developable. There's lots of space to build there. And if you look at the 3A mandatory mixed use regulations, it would basically make it into a high density residential zone instead of a central business district, which we love today. Thank you.
Any other opponents? All right, we will close the comment period. Does the planning board wish to, and thank you, Chris, again for getting here. We know what it's like to get in and out, so we appreciate your time. Anyone else from the planning board wish to add anything, or from the council? Councilor Aiello, then Councilor DeMarco.
I don't know where to begin, honestly. Let's go through a couple of things I just want to clarify for the public of things that were said already, both in terms of the presentation, the contents of the plan, and what we heard. $75 million for flooding was the number I used to talk about Morton Street, the berm and the stormwater management, the Pico area for a seawall, for the restoration of the marsh and the protection to berms of the marsh there, and for stormwater management, and for Girdlestone, stormwater management. And for those of you who have been around for a while, we redid all the stormwater systems as well as all the other utilities in Winthrop Center because the center was always flooding and the businesses were always having backup and flooding in their basement. That was the first phase of a two-phase project. Quiet, please, thank you. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me.
I'm just asking for decorum, Mr. President. I think everyone deserves it. The second phase of that project is to continue the stormwater system out through the back of Ingleside Park and over to getting out into the harbor with treatment, et cetera. Never did that. That's still in the books. The center and all that investment we made is still at risk there. That's how you get to 75 million, in case anybody wants to know. The second thing, it was a long time ago, and maybe things changed, but a lot of people are worried about the number of units, the crowding and all that stuff. I'm worried about crowding. What I'm not worried about is a plan that says 0 units are going to be created or even zoned as a result of 3A. Many years ago, I was a school teacher, I was a high school teacher, math teacher, and 0 meant 0. I don't think that has changed. Does anybody know that has math changed? I know there's modern math and all this stuff. 0 means 0. So when you conflate and say this is going to cause more of this, that, and the other thing, you're lying to the public, okay? Let's just be very clear about that. Some people have been accusing other people of scaremongering, and then they come back with the statement, and guess what the state's going to come back? They're going to tell you how many miles you can drive. What the heck is that? Right? So let's all stop the scaremongering here. There was a figure that we get $2.18 per person from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in aid. Okay. Again, I'm a former math teacher. There's 20,000 people in here. Just one project, $7.7 million for the Revere Street project. All new utilities, flood protection, sidewalks, trees, roadway system, 3 new traffic signal crossings to make it safer for pedestrians, which currently didn't even have a walk cycle on some of them. All that complements the discretionary dollars coming from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So if someone tells you we don't get money, go ask about all the money we got on Revere Beach, discretionary dollars that came into this town. Go ask about the assistance we got from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to do the center project, okay? So when people give you facts, check the facts. When people even tell you about their track record in the courts, I think they're 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out, right? There's no track record, there's no victories here. So, I don't know, there's certain lawyers I would hire and there's certain lawyers I wouldn't hire, and they come in different bundles here. Let's talk about a couple of things. But the state is too poor.
Decorum, please. The councilor has the floor.
The state, thank you. The state is too poor to give money. Let's be clear about the state's budget. The Fair Share Tax Amendment, which is projected to produce $1 billion a year in revenue, is now producing for 2 years in a row, $2.5 billion a year. 50% of it for infrastructure stuff, of which transportation is a major component, and the effect to protect transportation and mobility and invest it in stormwater systems and other systems is there, okay? So it's a different pot of money. The money is there. I agree we're probably not going to see much money over the next 3 years. I think that's shameful, but it is what it is. But in the Commonwealth, there's going to be a lot of money given out. There's a $6 billion economic development project that has specific programs for municipalities. Every one of them says all towns, including Winthrop, are eligible, subject to having passed a 3A law. Is about $2.5 billion we're not going to be eligible for when we vote no. A couple of things we've heard, the 3A, the overlay district and the center. That's a no. We're not doing an overlay center we're not doing a 3A overlay in Winthrop Center, correct? That was the case before, and that's the case today. Can you confirm that?
The center is a mixed, is MMU, is how they'll term it, right?
Yeah.
So the 220 units that are attributed to the center could be developed under today's zoning, under CBD zoning. The MMU zoning through 3A allows us to maintain ground floor commercial. So it won't be ground floor residential. So those units, are eligible today, they'll be eligible in the future.
Yeah, so nothing changes on that. So let's be clear. There's not going to be a need to accommodate what sounds like communism, micro units. I don't even know what micro units are. Or people are calling tenement housing or all sorts of other crazy things that are trying to scare people in the center. That's not going to happen. Let me just start where I wanted to
Start or
start,
end?
which is,
Mr. Dow,
excuse me,
please.
Well, why do you give him so much time, Jim?
Please.
You asked other people over here
Please,
to
public
cease, to
comment
not
is-
talk, and yet he takes over the show. He's got a book in front of him for crying out loud.
Councilor Aiello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am getting to the end of this in the respect of time. The first thing I want to do is apologize to the planning board. I think we, the council, have failed you. You guys are all volunteers. You guys work your butt off. We complain about people not getting into public life. We watch the unbelievable work that's happened here, and then we tell them, no, we don't believe it, we don't want it, it doesn't count. Are you okay? Okay, thanks. Let's understand what the planning board has got preliminary approval from the Commonwealth to do. We've heard this term, paper compliance, that other towns are using. Okay, paper compliance refers to the fact that someone's got an industrial park and they say, we're gonna rezone it for housing, knowing that the industrial park is worth more than what housing could ever develop. So they think housing is never gonna happen there, but housing could happen there. If the economy changes and the kinds of uses or the layout of that park is no longer valid for that use, that could change. Here, we've got something quite different that nobody else has picked up. We're getting full credit for things that we already built. They made a persuasive case through the documentation, through the historical files of what Winthrop has done, and unlike any other town, We're not getting paper compliance. We're getting zero. And again, zero means zero. It's really just an astounding tribute to the work you guys did. It is, I never thought we could achieve it. I think it's remarkable. So I do want to publicly thank you for the brilliance of your work, for the dedication that you put into this. I know it develops a lot of agita for each one of you, and I apologize for that, but thank you very much. I'll see you guys.
Yeah, so I also want to thank the planning board for all your hard work you've done. I mean, I know you've had your work cut out for you with all this and the public perception and all that stuff. I'm going to be brief. So the one thing I've heard a lot about, and it has nothing to do with grants. I mean, we don't get that many grants anyway. But the one thing I've heard is that we must comply with state law. That's the one thing I've always heard, is we must comply with state law. But yet the state doesn't comply with federal law when it comes to illegal immigration, so you can't have it both ways. It's either the state complies with federal law or the town complies with state law. You can't have it both ways.
Any other Vice President Belcher.
Thank you. I don't want to editorialize on 3A too much this evening, but I just wanted to ask some questions directly to the planning board to make sure I understand it and the public understands it. So the CBD will not be a 3A district, correct?
It's not an overlay district.
Okay.
It's used as part of our compliance.
Thank you. 3A does not allow for additional bedrooms to be built in pre-existing condos and apartments, correct?
No, this is a zoning law.
Does 3A allow for a density that would enable builders to build in the parking lots of pre-existing apartment complexes in the overlay districts?
It's a super theoretical question. Setbacks still apply. Building separation distance still applies. Minimum lot size still applies, right? So base zoning still applies to those things. In a conceptual world, could they build in a parking lot? Yes, but the way we've laid out this plan is that base zoning has a minimum lot size for a unit density. You could not develop additional units in Seal Harbor or Governor's Park the way it's outlined in the zoning that we've presented.
Thank you.
Just to clarify your question, I hope I did.
Yes, thank you. One final question. The state has reviewed this plan as it stands and is presented to us tonight, correct?
I'll let Tony answer that if you can.
Sorry, mic was on. Yes, the state has. Both RKG looked at it to make sure it complies, as I said in the presentation. The state still, their cursory review, but they're waiting for the final plan to be submitted if the council so votes.
Excellent, thank you. And just to comment on one of the public comments made tonight, somebody mentioned crystal balls and we don't know what happens in the future and the importance of retaining local control. Complying with this plan that the planning board has astutely created that does not result in any additional units is retaining local control. We do not know what happens if we don't comply, right? We haven't seen that reality yet. I'm not trying to fearmonger, but I would rather have a say over where these districts go than risk the state being able to put them wherever they'd like. So that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Any other councilors?
Tonight, John.
Councilor Dross.
Thank you, Council President. Let me add my thanks to the planning board. I think it's wonderful that everybody thanks you for your work. I think some people are thanking you for your work by acknowledging the outcome of your work that town manager was reviewing at the top of the meeting tonight. I think others, unfortunately, are listening to the result of your work and the recommendations and the impact of that work, and unfortunately are thinking of a different reality. And I think it's time we deal in the actual reality. I have a couple of questions for you. And Chairman Boyce, I don't know if you're the best person to answer this. I'll just direct the questions to you. Let me just clarify some things that were on the slide because you weren't here when Tony was covering this. The Planning Board's proposal utilizes 2 overlay districts that are not currently zoned for the existing density. No new units can be built under this proposal. The units already exist. Seal Harbor Road parcels, 394 existing units, will be zoned for 333 units. Governor's Park parcel, 393 existing units, will be zoned for 336 units. In other words, the zoning you have done in both of those locations with overlay districts are fewer than the units that exist today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I want to ask a few questions about where we stand with compliance with the law and how that is relative to the other communities that are requiring to be in compliance. Attorney Cipolletta, Town Manager Marino, I would assume that either one of you could answer these questions. Has the court determined that 3A is constitutional?
Yes, they have.
Have they determined that the Attorney General can enforce the law?
Yes.
What are the most likely enforcement actions we may see from the Attorney General?
Counselor, I attended a conference, was sponsored by Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly. It was on 29 May, so that was just about a little over a week ago. And the panelists were talking about 3A and its future and the impact on cities and towns. Be assured that to the person on that panel and those discussing the likelihood of the outcome that will be kicked off by the Attorney General's office, I can guarantee you, we will see a lawsuit coming down the pike. We will see an order from a Superior Court judge. We will see an appeal that we will lose. And then we will see the SJC rewrite the Milton case and put the word Winthrop in place of Milton.
My understanding is that the Superior Court just ruled that 3A is not an unfunded mandate because it does not require building, it requires zoning, correct?
That's correct.
My understanding is 133 communities out of the 177 have either complied with the law or are declared in interim compliance with the law, and that Winthrop is amongst 9 MBTA adjacent communities currently not in compliance. Is that correct?
I'd have to double check the 9. I think the 133 is right, but I'd have to double check those numbers.
Several nearby communities who once opposed their initial 3A plans have since approved compliant plans, including Gloucester and Marblehead. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about Marblehead, but I know Gloucester did approve it in a subsequent ballot vote as well.
Okay. I'll just make a couple of comments as the chair of the Finance Subcommittee and also a member of the Climate Commission. I've heard a lot of people talk about where are the grants? What grants have we received in the past and why is it a big deal? We've received over $1 million in municipal vulnerable communities MVP grants over the past decade to help us with various projects around climate resiliency. We have met as a Climate Commission every month since last August. We have 8 defined hotspots in the town, including some that have been mentioned tonight: Morton Street, Pico, Tileston, Girdlestone, and several others. So far, to be crystal clear, we are clear that the required investment to address 4 of those areas will range anywhere from $5 million at a minimum to upwards of $20 million. The 4 other hotspots, we will be going through a process in the coming months of defining exactly what is needed based on the best solution. That is a multi-million-dollar proposition. Later tonight, we'll be talking about passing a budget for fiscal year 26. As you may have heard Matt Gorkowitz present to the town council a week ago, outside of our operating budget, we have about $5 million, roughly, in stabilization funds. We have another $500,000 in free cash. So if you think about it, outside of our operating budget for both the town and the schools, we've got about $5.5 million, roughly, in reserves. If we have a need to keep the town from flooding, that at the end of the day will be roughly in the ballpark of $50 million or more, yet all we have in reserves, folks, is about $5.5 million. You do the math. I totally appreciate people's sentiments around development. When you look at Revere Beach and you see how it's been developed, when you look at the seaport and you see how it's been developed, is there a reason sometimes to mistrust particularly for-profit developers? Yes. The reason I'm voting yes for this plan is to honor the great work of the planning board, because their task was to thread the needle, comply with a state law that we must comply with or face the consequences Attorney Cipolletta just said, but do it in a way that results in zero impact to the town. And if you don't agree with absolute zero, hopefully you would agree that it is minimal impact to the town. I believe in sustainable development, in redevelopment. Folks are exactly right when they say we do not have the room for a lot of extra development. And folks said it earlier that we're doing the development on our own today. That planning board's recommendation is exactly spot on. We have the opportunity to achieve what we need to achieve. Realize we can't address our climate issues on our own. We simply don't have the money. Realize that the impact of their plan is zero impact in terms of additional units. They have come up with a plan that zones for fewer units than exist today. So if you're looking for a way to truly protect Winthrop, financially and otherwise, I please ask that you support the planning board's plan. You have done a tremendous job, and the way for us to honor your tremendous job is to adopt your plan. I'll leave you with this thought. We have a choice. Pass the planning board's plan with zero impact, or don't pass it and brace for impact, as Attorney Cipolletta said. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome.
Council Testner said he doesn't have comments. Do you have comments?
Comments right now.
This is great, actually. I love hearing this. I think there's some good folks on both sides, and I know John and I discuss this sometimes when we go home, and we ride home and we fight about it. It's very nice to think that there will be no more units, and the state is going to do this, the state's going to do that. We really don't know what the state's going to do. We don't know what the state's going to do at all. I can honestly tell you that I don't think Seal Harbor is going over ever. Then we'll have fewer units and we'll, I don't know, redesign the whole building. But I can tell you if I sell my unit, and the state says that we have the ability to add bedrooms and the occupancy rate can change, then indeed,
change as long as I own it. But that's different than if I sell. The other concern that I have is I've always thought about home rule is really important. And it's funny because my husband wrote a piece about the Suffolk resolves, and it's a weird thing because we were threatened early on in 1774 by British control. And oh, I'm sorry, and we fought it. Sorry, thanks. And we fought it. And today we're facing a threat in our own state. I think this is the first law since I've been in Massachusetts that forces us to do things that we didn't think were great for our community, and it did so by bullying us, by saying, okay, so you can't have the grants that we have. That's a weird way to help communities build. I would love to have seen a law that said, can we work with you because we need more housing? And I know that you're very dense. In fact, by the way, just as an aside, Mr. Cipolletta, what is our density worse than most communities around us? Do we have greater density? I think we do.
It would seem so.
Yeah, seems so. It is so. It's greater than East Boston. So isn't it weird? No, seriously, isn't it weird? Why are they trying to get us to comply with something that's going to hurt our town? I don't understand it. You would think that they would give us money because we are protecting Boston. We are a barrier island. You would think that we would be getting money for that. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that we would subject ourselves to bullying, which I believe is going to continue to change. I don't have the same feeling that John does, that this is it. We're not going to worry about it because it's never going to change and we're never going to have any problems with more density. They want more housing, and even if we complied with what we have and we didn't build housing, you don't think they're going to come in here and change that law? I think differently. I think that they will come in and say, you didn't build housing under your plan, and we're looking for housing. That's why they're doing it. That's my feeling. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council before we close?
I again, like everyone else here, both in the audience and on the table, thank you guys for your work. And there's been several comments that it has been the better part of a year and a half anyway, since last January, that this is relatively all-consuming. It's separated the town in so many ways and brought some together in so many ways. So, heard a lot of comments, mostly about grants and flooding and issues that affect our town, that we all know that and have for many years and will continue for many years. What I didn't hear at all was the actual intent of the law. So the intent of the law, by my account, is that the state is saying there's a housing crisis. We need MBTA communities to help us address that housing crisis. And to do that, we need more units built. Boston is exempt. Most of the western part of the state is exempt. And they've focused on 171 odd communities. So that's the intent of the law. So to me, that's the goal. That's the goal of the state. The goal of the state is to not have 0 units built in a town. That's just not the intent of the law. I look at the grants, and although we are not reliant on every grant that's out there, and we have asked for grants in the past, we have received some, we haven't received most. There is also a cost to every grant we do. There's been talk from councilors and as well as members of the audience, in whatever that number is, if it's $5 million, $10 million, $100 million, that's not the amount of money we're going to be getting in grants. If there's a $7 million project. And we're fortunate enough and thank the state for giving us $1 million. The other $6 million is still reliant on the taxpayers of this town. So we're not going to, unfortunately, as much as we'd all love to be here, and I think we could all agree, we'd all love to get $75 million in grants and fix every issue we have. That's just not going to happen. So there is a significant cost with every grant. And Councilor Aiello mentioned, which was 100% true, we got upwards, well, originally $6 million, and I think they raised it because the prices went up with COVID on the TIPS project. And they're doing a lot of work, and we appreciate that. However, there's also a significant cost to the town. Nothing is free. We all understand that. But most of the talk is about, you know, the reliancy on grants, and that grants will come if we, so we're, on one side of the coin, we're expecting that if we comply and do what the state asks, we're gonna get money. And that's not guaranteed by any stretch, and I think everybody will understand and agree with that. But there's no discussion on the other side. On the other side, we're just saying it's zero and that's it, and that's definitive. There is no definitive, I don't think, on that side either. I think it's, and I think most pro and con would agree it's not a great law. There's a lot of bad laws, right? But I think most would agree this is not a very good law. It's been incredibly divisive to many communities. Maybe some have passed out of fear, maybe some have passed because it's just the right thing to do. We're in a tougher position because we were ahead of the curve, and we did a lot of zoning over the last 20 years between the CBD and the waterfront district and such that have created a tremendous amount of potential units. Not all of them are built yet, but it looks like many will be built. So again, I would just leave by remembering why this law was established. It was established to increase density, to increase the number of units. And that always has to be in everybody's mind. But once again, I can't thank the planning board enough. I've done it 5 times, but you know, we might think we have a tough job. You guys have your hands full in so many different ways, and you're involved with, you know, the future of the town. Basically, I hate to say it, is like kind of in your hands, right, in a lot of ways. So I thank the council for their comments. Just to let you know, the next stages of this, the planning board will be meeting in hopefully the not too distant future to officially vote on a recommendation to give to the council. They need a 48-hour notice of a meeting. They will then vote on a recommendation. They will send that to the council. Once that's done, the council can vote. I mean, I think the optics have been discussed every which way over the last 18 months. I'm sure there'll be some more discussion as the council votes, but the council will vote. For this to pass, it would need 5 yes votes from the council. Just to set the stage up, you know, we will discuss with the chairman of the planning board as soon as they intend to hold that meeting. And it shouldn't be an overly long meeting and discuss meeting. It seems to be a similar recommendation to the recommendation that was made 7 months ago. So with that, I will close the public hearing. Again, thank you all, pro and con, for coming and voicing your thoughts, and I will ask for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Vice President Belcher, second by Councilor DeMarco. Roll call, please, including the planning board.
Yes.
Councilor DeMarco?
Yes.
Councilor Costigan? Councilor Tassmieri?
Yes.
Councilor Swope? Yes. Councilor DeRoss?
Yes.
Vice President Belcher?
Yes.
President Lettieri?
Yes.
With the planning board, Chris Boyce?
Yes.
Sarah Jane Cornish? Yes. Alyssa Gamble?
Yes.
Jason Palutro?
Yes.
Anna Mercer? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.